Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Plant Powered Metro New York's Cooking with Chef Carole. I'm happy to welcome you all to our monthly series sponsored by Plant Powered Metro New York and the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan. Special welcome to JCC members and to everyone. And happy to see you all. Plant Powered Metro New York empowers people to achieve better health and overcome chronic disease through a whole food, plant based approach to nutrition. We offer evidence based education, resources, and a grassroots network of support to create community and to inspire change. And together, as leaders, organizers, and educators, we raise awareness about the dramatic health benefits of whole food, plant based nutrition, empower individuals to make their own lifestyle adjustments, and lead projects that spark changes in food policy, food practice, and food culture. So, welcome to the show. We have a bunch of announcements today, so I'm going to try to get through them quickly. It's March, and for Plant Powered Metro New York, it's our 5th anniversary year. We have a theme this year. It's called We Are Rooted. Root vegetables. And today, Carole actually has a special class inviting all of you to come celebrate with us because cake is on the menu. We also have some very special events with plant-powered nutrition leaders this month in honor of our anniversary, which also coincides with National Nutrition Month. So bear with me as I just give you some of the highlights coming up. In honor of our theme, We're Rooted, we have 4 root cooking demos that we're also sharing this month. The first one is with Chef Rebecca this coming Wednesday at 12:30 on beets. And the following 3 Wednesdays, we'll have another root demo from another one of our network chefs. And all of these will be on our YouTube channel, and it'll be set to a YouTube premiere at 12:30 on each of the subsequent Wednesdays in March. And then I also want to let you in on a huge congratulations to our producer, the producer of this show, or co-producer of this show, really the behind the scenes doing all the tech for us and more, a lot more, James Spellos, who's going to be honored as our grassroots champion at the Plant Powered Metro New York 5th anniversary celebration, which takes place in April in Brooklyn. This event is a fundraiser, and we're also going to be honoring the founding clinical team of Plant Powered Metro, which includes New York Health and Hospitals Association and Bellevue's plant-based lifestyle medicine program people. They include Dr. Michelle McMacken, Dr. Shivam Joshi, Dr. Gaurav Sharma, Dr. Sapana Shah, Dr. Rebecca Boaz, and nutrition and dietitian Lillian Cora, and Chrisanne Polito Moeller, I believe. Sorry for any mispronunciation. Anyway, we have an unbelievably distinguished team joining us as our advisors at Plant Powered, and they've been with us from the start. And so we really want to honor them at our celebration in April. And as we celebrate these 5 years, we move forward, I'm reading from a text, to realize our vision of communities free of illness and people living their best lives through a plant-powered lifestyle. So do check out our website for classes. And for those of you who've been with us for a long time, or those of you just joining us, we have a host of events happening in all 5 boroughs, now in New Jersey and also out in Long Island. And most of the events we put on are free, and we are sponsored by several sponsors, but the day-to-day, people-to-people contributions and donations also help us enormously. So those of you who would like to celebrate with us by making a donation, every single dollar counts, and we would be most grateful, particularly in our anniversary month and our fundraising drive month, if you would give generously to the organization and help us keep spreading the word of plant-powered nutrition. So super quickly, Tuesday, March 5th, What's the Root Cause? We have Dr. Brooke Goldner, who is an expert and pioneer really in reversing autoimmune disease with plant-powered nutrition. March 14th, we have a health book club for our Spanish-speaking audience, reading the book Evident by Mexican physician and lifestyle medicine doctor, Dr. Marcela Sandoval. March 15th, we have Nourish Your Mind, using nutrition for Parkinson's disease. And this we're doing with the JCC Manhattan and with the distinguished Michael J. Fox Foundation. We really have heavy hitters this month. March 28th, How Not to Age, Dietary Lifestyle Patterns, Q&A, and our very renowned Dr. Michael Greger will be online with us answering questions from his new book, How Not to Age. And he'll cover everything from inflammation to the blue zones to slowing the aging process, eating healthier on a budget, and much, much more. And you can submit your questions. So he'll answer the questions we submit. March 28th is our Heart to Healthy Heart series with Jim Spellos and a distinguished cardiologist. And then March 29th is our last day to register for our Spanish-speaking 21-day jumpstart. So there are more in-person events on the website. Please go to the website and you can get all the details. And our usual recommendation, the farmers markets are getting filled with all kinds of fruits and vegetables. We encourage you to buy organic. If you can, ask for regenerative grown vegetables as well, since the quality of the soil makes a difference to your health, to the microbiome, to the environment. And finally, guidelines. Please let us know where you're from in the chat. Also, please ask questions in the chat. Carole usually allows time during the demo, and we'll save a few minutes at the end to answer as many as we can. And if you're enjoying the presentation, please like us on Facebook or YouTube or even LinkedIn. And so thank you for bearing with me. I probably won't repeat these at the end like I usually do, because I know Carole also has a packed hour for us, or hour and a half for us today. So Carole, what's on the menu?
Oh, Wendy, first of all, it's so nice. I haven't seen you since the new year, right?
Right.
And, so welcome back. And you know, it's our fourth year.
Oh my God.
We're starting, you and I mean, Jim's been with us for a long time now too. And I do want to thank my good friend David Bolts, who's been here since the beginning, who doesn't make any appearances, but is with me, going through all my mind of picking things and editing things, and you've been here the whole time, Wendy, and I just want to congratulate us for starting our fourth year, and happy birthday, of course, to PPNY having its fifth birthday as well.
And
so,
Carole, I'll share, one comment in the chat, which is a shout out to Carole from Maryland, who has not missed one show since we started. For the rest,
it's amazing. We should thank her for being part of us too.
Carole, exactly. Carole from Maryland, thank you. Because she's not missed a single show. I've missed more shows than she has. So thank you, Carole. We love you.
Thank you so much. And you know, I have to say, Wendy, you since we've been celebrating, we celebrated at Christmas, and then we had a New Year's thing, and then we had Valentine's Day, and honestly, we'll get back to our normal savory things. We've done a lot of baking in this last months, but I couldn't pass by having a celebration with everybody for the 5th anniversary. It just means a lot to me to be part of the organization. And I thought, you know, so many people are transitioning or have been on a plant-based diet, but do they know they can make cake? I mean, real cake, like birthday cake. And what's most important to have under your belt is some cake, to know how to do it. Now, I do remind everybody in these recipes, I wrote a whole paragraph to everyone just saying, one, baking is a science. So starting to substitute things, you are in your own science experiment. I'm not telling you you can't substitute, but you are in an experiment. I usually make the recipes several times, and then what I do is then I start to make some changes for my own taste buds and for maybe it to become even a healthier dessert. So I have written, these are other people's recipes today. We're making a vanilla cake that's going to have chocolate frosting, a real birthday cake. And then I couldn't help but squeeze in a carrot cake because I don't know, we need to eat our carrots, and I felt like everybody loves carrot cake. Even people have weddings and they have wedding carrot cake. So I thought, you know what? It's great to have one. They're all different. So I thought, and what caught my eye about this particular one was that usually it has cinnamon, nutmeg, and ginger. This one had my favorite spice, which is cardamom. So I was just all in right away when I saw this recipe on T. Colin Campbell nutritional site. So we're going to just quickly get into that right away, and we're going to get it started. So the first thing we need is to make the cake. So we need to have let's do the flax egg. Now, normally everyone knows a flax egg is 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed plus 3 tablespoons, right, of water. Now, she calls it a flax egg, but she actually doubles it. I'm not quite sure, maybe it was a typo because it really is 2 eggs technically. So I have 2 tablespoons of flaxseed and 6 tablespoons of water, and I'm just going to put those, going to marry those 2 things together, and I'm just going to give it a little stir. And I like to grind my flaxseed exactly when I need them because they hold their nutrients better, and you want to keep them in a dark place. And I have, that will gel up, and that's going to be our egg for this cake. So again, she calls it 1 flax egg, but it really technically is 2 flax eggs, okay? And that's noted in the recipe. The next thing we need is 1 cup of ground oat flour. Now, I just took my regular oats. I use these oats. I guess you can't see the bag because yellow doesn't show up on the camera very well. But I use these 1 degree organic oats, old-fashioned oats, sprouted rolled oats. And when you measure the cup of oats, 1 cup of oats, when you grind it, it becomes 1 cup of flour. So it's the same amount. So measure the oats, grind it in a blender, and then you get your 1 cup of oats. Now, both cakes we're making today are gluten-free cakes. And there are gluten-free oats where they're manufactured in a gluten-free plant. But she does tell us that we can substitute oat flour for rice flour. So brown rice flour. So you would use 2/3 of a cup of brown rice flour instead of the 1 cup of oat flour. Okay, so we've got the oat flour. Now, the next thing we need, I'm going to go on and I'm going to go to all the spices because that's really what makes the carrot cake the most delicious. Okay, so we need 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. We need 1 teaspoon of ground cardamom. Now, the recipe got typed up in error and it says 1/4 teaspoon of cardamom, but we need a full teaspoon of cardamom. So cardamom, and then we need 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. And I like to grind my own nutmeg. If any of you have ever seen, nutmeg looks like this little nut, and you grind it with a microplane, and fresh nutmeg is heavenly. So I encourage all of you not to just buy the nutmeg that's already ground, but fresh nutmeg is unbelievably fragrant and delicious. So I have a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and then I have 1 teaspoon of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And that's all going to go right in there like that. Okay? And then she says you need a pinch of salt. I'm just omitting it. I wrote it in the recipe just like she had it, but I'm saying a pinch of salt, no one's going to know the difference. So gone. Then this is where I start to make a few little changes. She suggests a 1/2 cup of walnuts, and the walnuts can be inside and they can also be outside for decoration. But I found that if the cake had a 1/4 cup of chopped nuts inside, that was plenty. So I'm using pecans here because I really like the way the pecans taste in the carrot cake. You can use walnuts, you can use pecans, or you can omit the nuts entirely. Okay? And then we now need to Oh, the other additional thing that I like to add is a 1/4 cup of raisins. Okay, and you're going to see that I've cut back the sweetness of using how much date paste I use, but we're going to use a 1/4 cup of raisins, but I'm not going to put those in quite yet because the flour will get all into the crevices of the raisins, and I don't want that. Okay, so let's go back now to our bowl with the flaxseed, right? Flaxseed egg. And now we're going to start to deal with the liquids. And we need to have 1 tablespoon of peanut butter. Okay, this is going to be our fat in the recipe. And I buy peanut butter. It's this brand, but you can buy any kind that you want. Unsalted, okay? Unsalted. I bought smooth because I mostly bake with the peanut butter that I have in the house. And you always want to give it a good stir because the oil sometimes likes to separate from the peanuts. But once it's stirred, it's all good. And you want to buy your peanut butter that just says peanuts. You don't want added sugar. You don't want added salt. You don't want added anything, okay? So you just want peanuts. And sometimes that's hard to find, but most of the time not. It just depends where you live. But I know I have to go to my good grocery store here in town because otherwise I'm just not finding the right kind of peanut butter. But it just says, I love it on the back. It says peanuts. So that's 1 tablespoon of peanut. And then the original recipe calls for a 1/2 cup of date paste. And when I first made this particular recipe, I did use a 1/2 cup, but it was so incredibly sweet that I couldn't tolerate it. So I cut it back by half using a 1/4 cup of date paste. Now, some of you might not know what date paste is. I did include it in the recipes, but basically it's taking dates, adding water, pureeing it, and you get to have this wonderful paste. Now, I always have it in the refrigerator because I use this date paste for many, many things. It could even be a savory thing if I'm making a Thai dish or I'm even making spaghetti. You know how some people put a little bit of sugar in a spaghetti sauce to cut the acid? Well, I would use a teeny bit of date paste. So even when I soak the dates, and if I save the water sometimes, and that water is just sweet water, and that also can be used. So it's pretty great to, just know. So I'm going to do a 1/4 cup. So I have it here. And date paste stays in the refrigerator. It can stay in the refrigerator for several weeks. I never have mine that long. I just make enough for this little jar. And I just keep, like I said, just keep it in the refrigerator. And we'll cover that. And the kind of dates that I usually use are the medjool dates. They're big and fat and juicy and sweet. And that is nice because it's a nice way. You'll see that all our sweeteners today are coming from the whole food. It's not processed, right? So that's what we mean by whole food plant-based, that our sweeteners are coming from something that we actually see right in front of our very own eyes. So that's the date paste. So I cut it back to 1/4 cup. You could use a 1/3 if you're someone that likes to have something really sweet. But let's remember that I'm adding some raisins, and that tends to make it sweet. And I don't think, and carrots. Sometimes your carrots are so sweet as well. So the next thing, so we have that, and then we need 3/4 cup of plant-based milk. Okay, now this is any kind of plant-based milk that you want to use. I'm using some almond milk. I like a brand called 3 Trees because like the peanut butter, it's one ingredient. It says almonds and filtered water. It doesn't have a paragraph of things. So we need 3/4 cup. I always give it a good shaking. Now, also with baking, you want to be careful. There are what they call dry measure cups and liquid measuring cups. The liquid measuring cups are the glass measuring cups. That's what you want to do liquid in. You want to do your solids in the metal measuring cups, okay? So I'm going to just put this in there like that. And so that's basically all of our liquids now, okay? And that's our liquids. Now, I made this cake at the beginning of the week, and I was putting it together, and I thought, oh my God, I almost forgot the carrots. And here I am. Don't even have the carrots out on the counter. So let's get the carrots out. I made a gigantic bowl today of carrots because I know it's such a treat to have grated carrots in the refrigerator already grated, because then you can use them for salads and things. So I took 2 carrots. I washed them. They're organic. I get the carrots with the green tops, and they're really sweet still. They're really yummy. They're organic. If you're not using organic carrots, I would definitely give them a peeling. But I felt like once I got these clean and got all the dirt off of them, I left the peels on, and then I just grated them. So they're grated carrots, and we only need 1 cup. So I'm going to really pack that cup, and I'm going to have a lot of carrots left over, but that's okay. Carrots left over can make a salad, and that will be delicious. So that's going in there like that, really simple. And then we're going to put our liquid in, and I'm just mixing it, and it's thick actually. You can see that the flaxseed really made everything quite thick. And I'm just going to need that little whisk again. And I'm going to scrape this. One of those, I like getting all of the liquid out. Okay.
Carole,
Yes, Wendy,
as
I'm
you're about
listening.
to do that, yeah, just a quick question, because I think you mentioned raisins. Did you have the raisins mixed in with the date paste, or raisins being
No,
added
raisins
later?
are coming right this very second.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
And
because I don't like to put the raisins in when with the pecans, because raisins have all those crevices, and
yeah,
the flour ends up getting all kind of in those crevices. So I wait till the mixture is wet, and then I put in the raisins.
and how many raisins? It looks like
It
they may
is
not
in
be
the
in the
recipe.
recipe.
I wrote it out, but I just put a 1/4 cup.
A 1/4 cup of raisins. Okay,
Yes.
those who maybe have the recipe in front of them, I didn't see raisins, but that's fine. So go ahead
It's
and
not
roll.
in front of you. It is in my chef's notes,
Got
Wendy.
it.
It
Okay.
says, in the cake, omit the salt,
Yep,
use less date paste, cut the walnuts, and then add optional raisins.
got it. Very good. 1/4
So
cup.
it's there, and I just like raisins in it. I used to make a wonderful Italian. In the old days, I made a carrot cake with golden raisins and pine nuts. So I'm kind of attached to the raisins and the carrot cake. A lot of people don't necessarily like raisins or whatever. Also, raisins. I don't know, Wendy. I'm sure you know this because we've shopped together so much. But raisins have a lot of sunflower oil on them.
Yes.
So you always want to find the raisins that don't have the oil coated in oil. They put
Correct.
oil on them so that they're not, all clumped together. But I find I know Newman's, Paul Newman has raisins in a canister. His raisins are just plain raisins. And I know, like here locally, Kroger makes the grocery store Kroger makes their own organic raisins, and it just says raisins. But look at when you're buying the raisins. It will say raisins and sunflower oil. So really try to buy the raisins without the added oil. Okay?
That's true for cranberries too.
That is true. Usually cranberries are loaded with sugar on them. So we are ready to put this cake in the oven, and I want to tell you that I preheated the oven to 350. Now, this cake could be probably made in an 8-inch pan. She recommends a 7-inch pan. Not everyone's going to have a 7-inch pan. Since I have been baking with no oil, I like using the silicone pans because they release everything very easily without having to spray anything, no oil involved. But I have so many cake pans from my old days. I must have 20 cake pans. Why? Because I years ago made a wedding cake for someone, and I had to have 2 of every size. So I actually have a 7-inch. That's what she recommends. So what I've done is, this is a regular cake pan. I've cut a parchment circle, and I put it at the bottom. And then I am making a little band that goes around the edge so that it doesn't get stuck. Now you'll see that it's a little floppy when we're doing it here, just a little floppy, not terribly floppy, but I'm just going to move all of these things out of our way. but it's a little floppy. But the minute we start to get things in there, it won't be floppy anymore. So I'm very careful about putting this, and I'm sorry the bowl is not pouring, it's kind of got it back towards you. But I'm just going to show you that the minute I start putting this in, the sides went to the edge, okay, the little ribbon, and then I still have quite a bit more batter in here. Now this cake is going to cook for 45 minutes. And in my high altitude here, it needs exactly 45 minutes. It may be in some areas, if it's moist or depending on your oven, maybe could use 50 minutes. And what you're going to do is you're just going to take a toothpick and you're going to insert it, and you'll see how it comes out. If it's dry, your toothpick, then you know you've got your cake all done and ready. Okay, so this is the cake. I almost need a spatula to wipe the spatula off because I like getting all that batter in. And that is our cake done. It is going to go into the oven. I'm going to look at the clock. It will be done just when we're finishing. But that's okay. So this is going in there, and that's in there for 45 minutes, okay? Does anyone have any questions about the cake?
There are not many questions, Carole. Just a preference if someone uses yellow raisins or dark yellow raisins, that's okay?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm a fan of golden raisins. If you can find the organic golden raisins, then definitely use those. I love golden raisins for baking so much. They're not going to show up as well as the black ones, but like I said, I used to love making golden raisins pine nuts in a carrot cake. It was an Italian thing, and it was so heavenly.
Sounds delish.
Yeah, and I love golden raisins for baking. So is that the only question, Wendy?
That's it.
Incredible. So let's finish this cake as if we were finishing it. We're not going to have time to ice this cake, but I want to show you how to ice this cake and what to do to make make an icing for it. Now, everybody knows what goes on carrot cake: cream cheese frosting. Now, this cake, the first time I made it, I was so like not wanting to make cream cheese frosting because it was an extra step. I just said, I'm going to eat this cake to see how it tastes. And it is so delicious, so yummy, that because the cardamom is in there, it's so fragrant, and the nutmeg. I mean, it is such a delicious cake that it doesn't need icing. Okay, it doesn't. You could serve it as is. But if you're making something special and maybe you want to make, you could make 2 small rounds and put a double layer of cake and do the cheesecake for. So I made a picture of how I decorate the cake when it's out. It's in the recipe. I basically, once the cake is cooled, I ice it, and then I put a bunch of grated orange carrots all over the top, and then I put some pecans to kind of tell people that there are pecans inside. And you could put a few raisins too if you wanted, but let's just make the cheese frosting so you know how to make it, and then we'll be done with the cake technically. So the recipe for the frosting is super simple. We need to have a half a cup of cashews, and these are raw cashews, not salted, raw. I buy the ones that are in pieces because they're a little cheaper than the whole cashews. And we need a half a cup, and we need to soak them for at least an hour. So if you're doing this in a rush, I would advise that you boil some water and just cover the nuts, at least by, make sure they're covered, and let them soak for 1 hour. I actually started soaking my nuts last night because the longer they're soaked, the easier they break down. And we've done a lot of things with cashews here. We've made cashew cheese for bagels. We've done we've made cheesecake over the time. And I even make mozzarella with the cashews for pizza. So it has a lot of versatility, whether you make your cashews savory or whether you make them sweet. So today we're just going to make them sweet. So I've drained the water that they were soaking in. That water is gone, and it's thrown out entirely. Okay, and then we need a half a cup of plant-based milk. Now I noticed that I didn't need to have the full half a cup of plant-based milk. And let me just get my little measuring cup back here, because I like this one so much. I actually have 2 or 3 glass measuring cups, but I love this one so much that I just like to use it over and over again. Instead of getting the other ones out of the cabinet, I just use the same one over and over. So the recipe calls for a half a cup of plant-based milk, but I cut it to a quarter. We can add more if we need more, but it's better to have less than now and then add a little more than to have it all too much, okay? And then we need 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. So let's get that in there. 1 tablespoon. That's a lot of flavor, 1 tablespoon. And then we also need 2 tablespoons of date paste. Now, I felt that 2 tablespoons of date paste was a lot. And so I think 1 tablespoon is plenty. And I wrote that up in the notes just to use 1 tablespoon. The other thing that I sometimes like to do with this frosting is add a little lemon zest or a little lemon juice. I actually have a tiny, tiny bit of lemon juice. And it just kind of freshens up. It makes the lemon juice makes it have like a freshness to it when you bite into it. So you can add a little lemon juice. That's just an extra thing. Now we need 1 tablespoon of date paste. I sometimes like to hold on to this because I've already made it, and I just throw in 1 date. That would be the 1 tablespoon. But we can do that here. Let's just rinse this off. This 1 tablespoon. We're going to use 1 tablespoon, and it's plenty sweet, okay? Because we're putting this icing on top of the cake, right? So how much sweetness can you have? So you'll see that I've made these changes, but they're changes that make it so that it's not over the top sweetness. So I'm going to just put these in my NutriBullet, which is way back here. So you just give me a minute. I'm putting this lid on, and I'm just going to turn it over and blend it. Well, that's enough noise for lasting, but here it is, okay? And it's super smooth. It's really beautiful. It's really hard for you to see, but it's super smooth. And this is what I think, because I blended it in the blender, and because it's a NutriBullet, the way that it sits upside down, so you can't like add milk. It's not like a blender. You can make this in a blender. You can make it in a food processor. And you can make it, I mean, it's not a lot. It's so little bit that to get your Vitamix out, I don't know if it's worth it to do that. But I make it just in the NutriBullet, and I clean all this out. Now, ideally, this is best put into the refrigerator, because when it's in the refrigerator, it's going to harden up a little bit. And when you take it out, you can decide at that point if you need to add more milk. But you can see that this is already creamy and smooth. And I think if it had more milk, it would be runnier. And I don't want it to be runnier. I want it to be thick like frosting. Okay, so you can see that it's really beautiful. And of course, you have to taste it always. You can't go any, oh, it's so delicious. Oh my God. It's like, you just want to eat the whole bowl, but you don't, because as I remind you in this preface that I wrote at the beginning of the recipe, that I remind you that these are whole food, plant-based, SOS-free desserts, but they have calories. So desserts are not meant for all the time, right? Desserts are meant like these. These are more like elaborate desserts. These aren't the desserts that are like a bowl of fruit, or these are celebration desserts, right? Or when you're having something special, guests come over for dinner or something. So you want to just remember that cashews here have a lot of calories, right? Dates have a lot of calories. All the things that we're making are from the whole food, and that is really the most awesome part of making these desserts. But just remember, they are full of calories. Isn't that a good thing, Wendy, to remember?
For me, it's a very good thing to remember because I've got such a sweet tooth that I'd be justifying eating all those every day rather. I'd say, oh, it's got carrots in it. But yeah, it's a special occasion.
It's a special occasion, and I mean, one has enough special occasions in their life to justify that, right? It's not
Totally.
just once a year, but you know what? If someone has a birthday party or someone has a dinner guest,
Absolutely.
there's plenty of reasons to make a wonderful cake, and that's what we're doing.
Yep.
So this is the frosting. For now, I'm just gonna put it in the refrigerator right now, because I'll take it out later, but our cake is going to be really hot to frost, but at least you know and understand exactly how to make the frosting. So that's going in there for now. We're going to move on to our special double layered vanilla cake, and we're going to make that cake, but I have one that's been cooling for hours because we wouldn't be able to frost it if it was just coming right out of the oven. So one more time, just anybody questions about what we've done thus far?
Carol, you're riveting. We're good to go.
Okay, fantastic. So we are now moving on to the next thing. And the next thing is this wonderful recipe. The first time I made it, I was like, wow, this is delicious. It comes from a woman who's a pretty good baker, actually. She has a blog named The Vegan 8, and I really have found many good recipes on her site. And again, I've made this vanilla cake numerous times, but I also have started to make, she claims, which I don't blame her, she's definitely a baker, and she says, please don't make any substitutions. She says, and please use exactly what I've written down, and please, if you can, use a scale over measuring cups. So if you are even trying to be a baker, or you are already a baker and you're still using measuring cups, I really advise you to get a scale, because the scale is the most accurate way for consistency and for measuring. And this, I couldn't live without a scale. I have an OXO scale. It wasn't very much money, and it has ounces and kilograms, and it's just worth having. So if you are wanting to do a lot of baking, or even not baking, things are better measured by weight. And if the recipe makes the effort to give you cups and weight, go with the weight, okay? That's what I'm going to suggest. Because if Wendy were to measure out a cup of almond flour and I were to measure out a cup of almond flour, they would both be different amounts, guaranteed. And that would result in a different cake, okay? So starting with this cake, the base of this cake is made with almond flour. And I would like if you could share the link, Wendy, that I found from Bob's Red Mill about the difference between almond flour and almond meal, okay? There are two things, and maybe you've been using ground almond meal this whole time and never knew there was something called flour. Or maybe you've been using it just as flour, but you never knew there was something called meal, okay? But they are different. And some people say they're interchangeable, and I say they're not. Because and today we're going to use the almond flour. The almond flour is made from blanched almonds, and it's super fine, okay? And blanched almonds mean that they're white, okay? I took out a jar of what I have called almond meal. It's hard for you to see the difference here, but it's very beige and very brown, because all they did to make the meal was to grind the almonds with the skins on, okay? This would make a different kind of dessert. It's coarser, And because think about it, has its skins on and it's denser. And we want to make this cake light and fluffy. So we're using the almond flour, which is blanched and white as could be and very fine. But it ends up with a lot of clumps in it. So I measured 224 grams of almond flour, which is about 2 cups, okay? Now, the next thing that we need is potato starch. Now, I can get into all this as well, but I did on the back of the very end of your recipes, I gave you a really good synopsis on the difference between potato flour and potato starch. Now, we're going to use potato starch. It is a more processed, how would I say, when the starch has been more processed than flour. The flour actually, potato flour keeps more of the nutrients in. So technically we would, if we were substituting flours and things, we'd want to really use potato flour more often. But starch here is really something that's holding this cake together. So we need the starch, okay? Now I'm going to measure that, and I just want to show you, maybe you've seen this before when I've done it, but basically we're going to measure in this bowl and we put it on the scale, and I left this just unmeasured. We want to make sure we're in kilograms, and this bowl weighs 4 kilograms, and there's a place on the scale that says 0. Sometimes the word is tar, T-A-R-E. I think it's got an E at the end, and that means 0. So it means you're zeroing out your scale. So whatever your bowl, if I were to put this bowl on, you would make it 0. Always make your container that you're measuring 0, so you're not adding in that extra, the bowl weight. So we need to have 100 grams, which is technically a half a cup plus 2 tablespoons. But we need 100 grams, and I'm kind of doing this backwards. If I could only see, that would be good. Let's turn it around so I can see a little better. And we need, how many I said? We need 100. 100. And we're only at 80 and 95. When we get close, I start to just put a little. We're at 99, just a hair. 100. So we're at 100 grams. So if we were to remeasure this out, it would hopefully be a half a cup plus 2 tablespoons. And again, if you don't have a scale, you would measure it out. But this is very kind of dense, like the almond meal. And so I think it's just better to weigh it, because again, measuring is always going to give us something different. Let me just get a whisk right away. Okay, and we're going to whisk this. We're going to start to whisk it. We need to fluff this up. The almond meal has a lot of bumps in it, okay, because they like to stick together. So this is an important part to do. And then we're going to, it has a half a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to omit that entirely. And then we need 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And I have that right here, 2 teaspoons of baking powder. That's going in there like that. Okay, and that's all getting mixed. Again, this is a vanilla cake. Now we're going to put this bowl back on. It says 0 again, and we need to do the rest of the things. Now there's not one other small error here in this recipe when it got typed up, and I just want to make clear to you that we need a half a cup of applesauce, and a half a cup is 120 grams, okay? A half a cup of applesauce is 120 grams. On the original recipes, the 120 grams ended up with the apple cider vinegar. So you don't want 120 grams of apple cider vinegar, you only want a half a teaspoon. So again, so we want 120 grams. Now, that's about a half a cup of applesauce, and I buy these little cups. You know, they're kind of like to-go cups for lunch, kids, you know, to put in your lunch or whatever. I like these for baking because they're just in the cabinet and they're just very easy. They're very reliable to have. And I'm missing all my little spatulas, so let me just rinse those. But I like using those. The little again, just like when we talked about peanut butter and we talked about almond milk, what we're looking for when you buy applesauce is you just want apples. You don't want anything else, just apples, right? You don't want sugar, you don't want added things, you just want applesauce. And you want the unsweetened applesauce. Now, normally, one of these 4-ounce cups should be a half a cup, but I noticed that it's a little shy, just a hair shy. So this weighs already 87 grams, and I actually have another one here that I'm just gonna top off really quickly to make it 120 grams. And it will happen very quickly here. And that should really be a half a cup of applesauce, okay? And then this I'll just put away in the fridge, or I'll eat it as a snack later. So we have our applesauce, and now we also need our maple syrup. And our maple syrup, she suggests that we use 200 grams. And when I first started making this cake, I did use 200 grams, but I also thought that it was rather sweet. So I've cut this back by half. So we actually want 100 grams of maple syrup. Now, if we're at 120 here, if I add 100, we'd be at 220. So I'm just gonna add the maple syrup here until I get to 220, because I just did 120. I'm doing it really slow, so when it gets close, I can stop, okay? And we're at 205, and I think I'm gonna just finish this jar right here. We're at 218, 19, look at that. I am done. 219, 220, end of jar, yay! So that's in there now. And then we need 1 tablespoon of vanilla. She says that's 15 grams. We could use a tablespoon, or we could add, I'm at 220, so if we need another 15 grams, that's 35. So I'm just gonna add till it gets to 235. Okay, just slowly, slowly. Oh, that's it. Right there, 235, that is my vanilla. And then we need aquafaba. And we've talked a lot about aquafaba, and often when I make cakes, we're gonna take the can of chickpeas, again, no salt chickpeas. You can cook your own chickpeas and just save that water for sure. I always seem to have a running jar in my refrigerator of drained beans, whether it's chickpeas or cannelli beans. Any of the white beans will make your aquafaba good for baking. I use it a lot. Sometimes I toss vegetables in it and roast vegetables, but I always have a jar going. And these can of chickpeas will just go into the fridge. So we need a 1/4 cup, and we need 60 grams, right? So I almost have to do the math, but we're at 235, so 35, so we'll be at 65. So I'm just going to add a 1/4 cup up till we get to 65, and I'm going to be very careful. That was it. That was it. Now, normally, often, I have made many cakes that just need that aquafaba whipped up into whites, because it can whip up just like an egg white. But here, we don't need to do that. Here, we just need to put it right into our cake. And I've made all of this smooth, made sure there are no bumps. Now, when I first started making this cake, I would just mix it all by hand. But I realized, and she recommends, using a handheld mixer, and just to get everything really smooth and to get some air into there. So if you have a little hand mixer, and I'm looking for the part that I need. This is my little, what do you call it? I've lost the name of this little tool. I've forgotten all of a sudden, but it is my one that I blend soups with in the pot, and it has an attachment with a whisk. And I do have a blender, but this is perfect for this. And it's just asking us to mix until the cake gets really smooth. That's all. And it's a pretty good idea. I did, like I said, I've made this cake by mixing by hand. but this is better. So hopefully you have a hand mixer, or just whip it up and just stir it and get some air in there. That's what you're trying to do.
Carol, can you hear me on that?
I can now.
Oh, very good. I'm not sure. Did you put in 30 grams of aquafaba or 60? We were looking the recipes.
Oh, it says 60, and I did put in 30. You were right. I put in, so I better get 30 more. You were right.
Jim,
I'm glad that you made a correction. But we'll put 30 more in because I forgot to put the other 30. We'll get here, we'll put this on here now, and we'll make 0 out of that. It's okay, so 0. Thank you very much, Wendy, for correcting me.
You're welcome. And
I get so busy here. I get so busy that I'm not thinking. That became 42 all of a sudden. So we are going to do 20. Oh, there we go. 30 is right there. So let's add that in.
Thank you, Jim.
That was nice of Jim. I just got a carrot in there. That's what happens, Wendy, when you're trying to do what I was doing, which was staying on the scale, staying in the same bowl, and you keep adding and adding and adding. Sometimes I put a different plate, a different bowl, and I measure the maple syrup, and then I measure the aquafaba, and then I measure everything separately. But because I was being all fancy and just kept adding. So this is it. This is our cake. It's vanilla batter. I'm not kidding you. If you were to taste this batter right now, you'd be like, you practically could eat all the batter because it's so good. Now, she suggests that you bake this in one layer, like an 8-inch layer, just one layer. But I'm trying to be fancy and show you a make 2-layer cake. And I love these little pans. I have these tiny little 5-inch pans. They are silicone, but what is awesome about them, they're called cheesecake pans. They have glass bottoms, okay? Glass bottoms, and they're silicone. So it means I don't have to grease anything. And I have these pieces of parchment that I cut out, and they're going into the very bottom like that. And that is just going to help release. The sides are covered. Unlike our other cake that we actually had to put a ribbon around the edge. We don't have to do that here. Why? Because we have the silicone and it's just going to release itself quite naturally, all by itself. Okay, easy. And I'm just dividing what would be one cake into 2 cakes now. That's all I'm doing. And I'm trying to make them look even as possible. And just smoothing this out. Right? And we're doing okay on time, but we do still have to make our icing and ice our cake. So, and our other cake is still cooking, and I think I'd have a little more there. So you just want to keep that even, and that all looks awesomely good. That looks great, perfect in there, and that's going to cook now at 350. And how long is that going to cook for? I think it's going to cook for like 20. I have to look at where I am. It cooks for like 25 minutes. We'll know that it's done. 25 minutes is probably, I'm going to put it in the oven. Hopefully I won't forget them. I don't need to bake them this very minute, but I'm going to get them in the oven. And that will give me a chance to peek at what's happening in this oven. It's cooking. Oh my God, it looks so great. Okay, look, we're having 2 kinds of cakes in the oven. It's awesome, and this is cooking really very well. So we have to remember that in 25 minutes, that is going to be at that time. I'm writing it down so I don't forget. Now we have to make our chocolate icing, and we are almost getting ready to ice the cake.
Oh, you open for a question?
Yes, of course.
Quick one on the brand name of the blender, the one with the whisk. So your
my little why have I forgotten what this is called?
I know
they called it. It starts with an
immersion blender.
Immersion blender. Thank you so much. I don't know. It just like zipped out of my head. Mine is Braun, Braun. I have had mine for so long. And even one day I burnt the cord on a Chef AJ show. It literally like touched the burner. And
I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second because serendipitously, Chef AJ just said hello to you.
She did.
She did. She says, "Hi, Carol. Miss seeing you."
That's awesome.
Well,
One day I was doing her show and I literally saw something smoking and I thought, oh my God, I hope nobody else sees this, although someone did. And I burnt my cord just a hair. And I love this thing so much that I thought, I look at new ones, Wendy, and you know, the new products sometimes aren't as good as the old ones, right? And I'm starting to sound like an old lady or something, but I'm not. It's just that they used to make things better. And so I'm really married to this, and it has the blender that I use for pureeing soups, and then it has that wonderful, wonderful whisk. So if you are going out to buy yourself one, make sure that you get both parts, because they don't all come with 2 parts. And this one has 5 speeds, and I really like that it has low and a really high speed.
excellent. And one more question is, where did you buy the red cake pans, the silicone?
Oh, you know, I bought those here in Taos. It was a fluke because I was running around looking for silicone and nobody had any. I have 2 kitchen stores in town and no silicone pans, none. And so, but I found these and I love them so much and I use them all the time that I keep the box because I'm afraid to throw away the box. So it is made by Norpro, Norpro, and it literally says 5-inch silicone, glass bottom, cheesecake pans, set of 2. And I've made cheesecake in them, but I bake cakes in them all the time. And I love them. So what turned out to be kind of like, I'm not sure this is going to work product for me, has become a like the love of my life product. You know, like I love those little pans so much. Anybody, any other questions?
That's it.
Okay, so let's move on to our frosting, because we need frosting and we're not using any kind of butter and sugar. We have to use the things that we know that are whole food, plant-based, right? And we have to also use, so I'm gonna get the food processor close by so that we can see what's going in. We're just gonna bring this close by. And I'm not used to, have to reach here. And you can make this icing in a blender, but the reason, you know, there's certain times I like to use certain machines, and the reason I like using this machine for this is because I can open the top and look inside and add, or, you know, and take away, whatever, not take away, but just add more things if it needs more flavor. I can just literally do it while it's still in the machine, opposed to the NutriBullet that's upside down, you know, where the lid is actually the blade is upside down and you have to turn it around and then taste it, then close it back up. It's just, this is easier and better. So what are we going to do for our icing? I always am roasting sweet potatoes. Speaking of Chef AJ, you can't say sweet potatoes without saying her name. I love roasting sweet potatoes. You can do it in the oven if you want, prick them and do a bunch of them. I never do one at a time. I do like 6 at a time. But I think I mentioned in my last demo that I'm loving steaming everything these days. I'm steaming potatoes all the time, steaming broccoli all the time. And so I steam these sweet potatoes. They're really moist. And I peeled it and I yielded 1 cup, okay? 1 whole potato of that I had equaled 1 cup. And then we're going to add the other things. And I should have this memorized by now. And then we're going to add approximately 1/3 cup of almond butter. And again, I told you that these things are this is going to be a rich, very rich in taste, but it's going to also be very delicious. Okay, I have 1/3 cup of dates, but we have to get our almond butter in there. So this is 1/3 cup, and we need 1/3 cup of the almond butter. Now this is the natural kind of almond butter that you can go to the store and just grind yourself. And that's what this is. You can get it in the jar, But again, you really want to buy the kind that says no salt, no added palm oil, no added sugar, right? You want to have things as pure as possible. Okay, so that's our almond butter. That's going in there. And then we need to have 1/3 cup of almond, of cacao powder or cocoa powder. Either one will work. Again, we've talked about cocoa versus cacao, but that is cacao powder. And then we need to have some vanilla, and I have a tablespoon of vanilla here. That's going in there. That's for flavoring. And then we need to have 1/4 cup of plant-based milk. And I try to take it easy. Remember I mentioned to you earlier, if it calls for, I try to put a little bit less milk sometimes, and I see how things are going. Why? Because you've roasted, well, I steamed the potato. The dates are very moist. The potato is very moist. And maybe it doesn't need all the milk that it actually says. So it's better to use less milk. I'll measure out 1/4. We might need a little more. We might need a little less. But I'm measuring out 1/4 cup. And let's just get rid of this scale. We don't need any of these things anymore. That's all in our way. And it's not quite time for our carrot cake. I'm not used to having so many cakes in the oven. Well, I am, but not here during the demo. And then we're gonna just puree this, right? And I'm gonna pulse it first so it doesn't go everywhere. And I put 1/4 cup of milk in. You know, I have a million little spatulas. I seem to have gotten them all dirty. You can never have enough spatulas. If you're a baker, you probably want to have 10 little spatulas. And I love these little ones the most. I like them because I like certain colors I only keep for baking, and I don't ever put them in savory things. So I definitely like the colored ones because I know which ones are my baking ones. I don't know, I'm kind of a purist in that way. I think that it could use just a hair more milk, just a little bit, not a lot, just a drop, right? Just a little bit. And that really is going to be our icing. Now, if I could put my finger through the camera here for all of you to lick how delicious, you would never believe how yummy this chocolate frosting is. I mean, you wouldn't even think you're missing anything about butter and confection or sugar. It just would not, because this is more delicious. It just is. It's just more delicious. And let's just get all these ugly things out of here. And we have our raspberries and our almonds left, and let's just taste this to make sure that it's good. You want it as smooth as possible. It looks pretty smooth. I'm gonna give it a taste. Mmm, yummy, 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 yummy. Now, I don't make it so sweet. If you want it a little sweeter, add another date or two. It's really okay. Okay, this is gonna come off now. And I immediately like getting it into a bowl. I'm not going to try to ice the thing from here. And we're just going to get this off. We're going to get this out of here so it's not in our way. And we're going to get this icing. Look, it is so looking delicious. Can you see, Wendy? Look at that icing.
Carole, it really does look absolutely amazing.
It's like so yummy. Like,
it looks amazing. And I will say that I'm loving the bowls you're using as well, because it really shows it shows off the food, but it really does make it all more appetizing as well. The presentation is just gorgeous.
Oh, nice, Wendy. And look, it's already like icing. Do you see how it like
that way?
It's totally like it's already there. You know, like you haven't even put it on the cake. And I forgot to mention to everyone that you don't have to make a cake. You can make cupcakes if you want, right? You're just going to cook everything a lot less time. And I'm not going to spend too much time here, but I like getting all of it out of the bowl. I have a little bit of icing left from the other day. I did make this cake the other day just to remind myself what our changes were. And washing my hands because you have to. Okay, so now is the fun part. We have 10 more minutes for our carrot cake. Let's just look at it while I'm thinking about it really quickly. And we're gonna ice the cake. Oh, and the other cakes are rising. And this cake is looking most awesome. And it's almost done, but not done yet. So that's cooking, everything's cooking. So we are now in the fun part, okay? And the fun part is all up to you, okay? You can be as simple as you want. You don't have to make 2 layers. You can make it as complicated as you want. You can make many combinations. Sometimes I've made lemon curd to go in the inside. So each one of our cakes here, you can see, came out. And I have the paper at the bottom, remember? So I'm peeling off the paper. And probably one of these cakes, just one in itself, could make a beautiful cake. You don't even need to stack them up. But we're doing decadence here today. So let me get out a knife here. And we're going to make this cake. And I want to get a little bit of parchment paper. So what we're going to do is this is my little plate. I just made a cardboard circle, and I have to have another little piece of parchment paper. And we're doing okay on time, Wendy. Yes, we are. I'm watching the time, but we have to decorate the cake. That is the most important part.
It's true, and Carol, you're fine on the time. We don't need to repeat the announcements. So
okay. So what I'm doing, Wendy, at the moment is
can you move it closer? Move it closer to you so we can see it. Move the cake.
Okay, so I literally took a knife and I cut the cake in half.
Yep.
Okay, I just literally, here's the inside. It's so fluffy and so delicious already. So I'm taking so we're gonna make 4 layers of cake. Because remember I said we're going to be like over the top decadent. And of course a few little crumbs came out. I'm tasting the cake. Now it's up to us what we want in the layers, right? Up to us. But today I decided instead of having chocolate on all the layers, we're going to have jam inside and chocolate on the outside, okay? And I'm going to take just what I call an offset spatula. There's lots of kinds of spatulas. This is like a big flat spatula. This spatula has like grooves on one side and smooth on another. I'm taking what we call the offset spatula, and I have some raspberry pomegranate jam, okay? And the finishing touches are going to have raspberries on it. So we might as well have the raspberry jam in the middle of the layers. Now, I like this brand called St. Delphore, and it is sweetened with applesauce, and it's the jam of my choice. They make a lot of different kinds of flavor, and I really like it. So this layer is going to go on top of that, like that. And a little bit of jam leaked out, but that's okay. Okay, and then we're going to put another layer of jam. Okay, and whoops, and I just spilled a little bit of jam here, but that's okay. That's why we have the parchment paper underneath. Okay, and that jam, that's going to also soak right into the cake. And I'm going to cut this cake now. Now, we don't really have to use all 4 layers. It will be a very, very, very tall cake. But let's just put this other layer on now. Really, see, can everyone see that we've got 3 layers on? And we're going to put another layer of jam. Okay, and that is again going to soak into the cake and go right. It's going to be so delicious. That's the end of our jam now. And I'm going to leave this rounded top. Sometimes you can make it level, but it's the top layer, and I don't mind that it's kind of rounded. Okay, now that's a very, very tall cake. And now, usually, if I were at work, we have these wonderful, like cake that turns, and it allows you to rotate the cake. But I've never seemed to have bought one of those for myself here at home, because I don't make that many cakes at home, to be honest. I actually love to make tarts for celebrations. That's more kind of what I like to do. But we're going to start icing this chocolate cake. And we have to be kind of careful at this moment how much we put on the top, because everything is still going to be kind of moving. It's a very tall cake. And ideally, what you want to do is start getting the icing on, and you want to get it all on the sides. And this is, like I said, a very, very tall cake. And ideally, I would like to put this in the refrigerator. Once I get that first layer on, that first layer gets hardened, and the cake is not going to move around so very much. But we don't have time for the refrigerator.
Looks like we've lost Carole.
How have you lost me?
Lost connection.
Oh, I'm here. I feel like I'm here. I see you. I don't know.
Oh, good.
Okay, good. Yeah, it looks like we lost connection for a minute. Sorry, everyone.
Okay,
but
well, I'm back. I didn't know I had left, but thank you, Wendy, for telling me.
Yep, we're good. We're good.
Okay. It's very, very windy today where I am. Very, very windy. And I live out here in the middle of nowhere. And you never know what happens. Sometimes we don't have power for hours. So you never quite know what's going on with the power. So if you had lost me, I'm not surprised. Now, I said this was moving a little bit. It's a very tall cake. And like I was saying earlier, in a perfect world, we would put this very first bit of icing on, and then we would refrigerate the cake, and then we would finish it after it chills for at least an hour, okay? But we don't have luxury like that. So we just have to kind of be very gentle here when I'm doing this frosting on the sides, and kind of making sure that it's staying all in one piece. And it pretty much is, but I can see how it's wanting to move, and I'm just going around, and we have to even it up a little bit over there. And sometimes if it looks crooked, you just add a little more icing, okay? And that's pretty much our cake here. You can see how, and again, if you had time, this is what you would do. You would get this very first layer on, and you would get it smooth, and then ultimately put it in the refrigerator for a good hour, and then come back and finish the cake, right? But we're trying to finish the whole thing today, right, in one go around. And we have more icing than we need, and I usually just freeze the icing. If I don't use it all, I just freeze it for another time. It freezes up just fine, okay? Let me just wash my hands. I feel like I chocolate all over myself.
Carole, the cake looks absolutely amazing. I mean, amazing, amazing, amazing. What a phenomenal day of celebrating plant-powered Metro with both of these cakes. I mean, absolutely phenomenal.
So this cake is done, Wendy. It's 4:50. It's been in 45 minutes. I don't even need to use a toothpick because I'm feeling it, and it's solid, and it's done. So right now we'll just leave that right here for now, just so we know that it's there, and so we don't forget that we have a second cake.
Yep.
Okay. And like I said, I would love very much to just put this cake into the refrigerator, but we're not going to. We're going to finish it. So I have some sliced almonds that I'm going to put on the side, and I'm just going to carefully rotate the cake. Again, if you had a little cake rotator, wish something, if you're going to make a lot of cakes, it's worth having one of those little turning cake. But we're just rotating it ourselves, and I'm just putting the almonds all on the side, patting them on. They're sticking really perfectly to the sides. It looks really, really, really good. Of course, I have almonds everywhere on the counter, but that's okay. That's part of the process. It can be a little messy. And while I'm patting it, I'm really making sure the almonds are going in there, getting stuck. Okay, they're all in there. And then what I'm going to do now is, remember I put the parchment paper at the bottom because there's a lot of icing and nuts, and I kind of want the presentation to be clean. I'm going to carefully, if I can, without moving the cake, I'm going to slip these out. Do you see? They're going to slip out. There's 3 of them. And of course, there's almonds everywhere, right? And we're just going to, I mean, you could do something else with these almonds. I would not throw them out. They have chocolate all over them. But let's just get rid of them here for a minute. Kind of glad my puppy is not. She's playing with her sister today, and she's not here at my feet because it's not good for dogs to have chocolate. And I'm sure there's almonds on the floor already. Okay, then I'd like to get a little fruit on here, some kind of fruit. Now for me, I have to have raspberries. Strawberries are good if you find that they're ripe already, right? But I particularly like raspberries, and we put raspberry jam right inside. So I'm just putting them in the positions, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. And then I put one in between, right? And just so they're all evenly. But I think about the top like a clock, right? And we could have smashed some of the raspberries in as well. We could have done that, okay? But we didn't. But that is pretty much our very beautiful cake. And I want to just make sure that that pan is very hot, and I have to be careful. But the counter got very, very dirty with the decorating. And I said we have a little bit of extra icing, but that's okay. We can put that. And then I thought I did use this candle the other day, but look, we could put the 5 in, and then we could just put it a little bit, little light underneath it, and wish everybody at Plant Powered Metro happy 5 years for being rooted in community and being change makers. All of us have been change makers and are dominoing through the community and through the world, that there is a lifestyle where you can eat healthy and feel better and reverse disease and still eat cake. How about that?
You most definitely can. Carol, the comments are coming in. Delicious cakes. What a treat. Fabulous. There was a quick question about the offset spatula. I found a link on Amazon that has one, but do you have a favorite place where you'd like to shop?
You know what? I don't have a favorite place, and literally, I'm so limited where I live that offset spatula was literally bought at Walmart, and it's a Wilton brand, and because they make cakes, right? They do cake everything, and it's a really lovely handle. Like, I like it very much. Like, who would have ever known that I would find anything that I like at Walmart? Because I almost detest the place, but I sometimes have to go in there. And I found this little spatula, and I love it. So, and what I'm going to try to do for you right now, even though this is very hot, I do want to be able to show you that this cake comes out. Do you see? It comes out. It's really very, very hot. I'm just going to put it here. The paper comes off. Do you see? This paper comes off. Okay? And remember that we have our cheesecake frosting that what we made earlier. We're not going to put it on, but you would just put it on the top. You could put it on the sides or just the top, and then you could decorate it with the grated carrots and nuts, and if you want raisins. I always think it's nice to tell people what's inside. Just like this cake here, we're telling people there are almonds and raspberries inside. Okay? And I guess I should blow this out because this candle can't keep up going forever.
You very much can. Happy birthday, Plant Powered Metro, and happy birthday to all of us celebrating here on our YouTube station and with Carol and with me and Jim and all of us.
And
We're
that's our
all
little cake,
celebrating
Wendy.
all
Look,
month.
here's
It,
our little cake.
it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. The gift we're giving back actually to the organization, 2 amazing cakes. I just wish you could FedEx them to everybody.
I wish everybody was here with me. And I was serving up cake to everyone. I'm going to let this cake harden, just so you know, in the refrigerator. And because I'm not ready to slice into it, it's still a little soft. And getting it a little chilled will do it very good.
Beautiful.
If anyone has questions, now is the time. Otherwise, Wendy, you can wrap it all up.
I will do so. I don't see any more questions necessarily. Single layer, yeah, frosting on the cake, not a double layer. So I'm not seeing, just a lot of wonderful comments coming in about thank you for all you do, Carol, and thank you for, the cake's looking delicious and like that. So I will wrap things up for everyone. Really, thank you for being here and for celebrating with us. For those of you who are able, most of our presentations are free or certainly have just a small donation, requested. But for those of you who'd like to join us in this fundraising month and in our birthday and 5th anniversary celebration month, please make a generous donation to Plant Powered Metro so we can keep doing all the programs that we're doing. And then please come join us. Bunch of really fun events happening, as I've mentioned earlier. Tuesday, March 5th, we have a terrific evening ahead with Dr. Brooke Goldner, a pioneer in using plant-based nutrition in reversing autoimmune disease. She herself had reversed her lupus and keeps her lupus at bay using plant-based nutrition. So that's an event called What's the Root Cause? And March 14th, we have our book club with our Spanish-speaking audience. Terrific book called Evidente with a life doctor. Tuesday, March 15th, Nourish Your Mind. This is a series that, or a show we're doing with the JCC in Manhattan, Marlene Meyerson JCC, and with the Michael J. Fox Foundation sponsoring us. So, yeah, we're honored to be with Dr. John Duda that day, and there's details on the website. March 28th, How Not to Age, Dietary and Lifestyle Patterns, a Q&A, and that is with our beloved and renowned and best-selling author and doctor and pioneer, Dr. Michael Greger, who's been a huge support, actually along with Chef AJ and many other doctors, but pioneers in the plant-based field. But really, to shout out to both of you, but to Michael Greger, we will have him online on March 28th. Please join us. And then, of course, with Jim, our host, our behind the scenes producers tonight, but the host of our Heart to Healthy Heart series, that'll be March 28th. And that's plant-based conversations that can change your life. And then we have a Spanish jumpstart coming up, 21-day jumpstarts for Spanish speakers. Last day to register is March 29th. And I'm going to dip into April for a moment because April 3rd is actually our big celebration of our anniversary in live in person in Brooklyn, and the details are on the website. But for those of you who are anywhere close to the New York metropolitan area, New Jersey, Long Island, the boroughs of New York, anywhere, Connecticut nearby, please come join us. We'll be honoring our show producer, James Spellos, for all of his amazing work he does for us. And also the plant-based doctors who've been very much a part of supporting Plant-Powered Metro New York from the very beginning. So please come join us. Please go to our website. If you're inclined, please make a donation to us. So all the links, I think, Jim, you might be putting them online. Carol can be reached at carol@thevegievanguard.com. And let's just see. Our next demo with Carol is April 14th, same time, 5 o'clock. And let's see if there's anything else. Yep. Thank you, Jim. And thank you, Alan Smithy, also known as David Bowles, who helps Carol at the beginning of the show behind the scenes. And thank you actually to the entire team of Plant Powered Metro New York. And thank you all for being here. So, on behalf of all of us, celebrate with us, enjoy the month of March, and we will see you in April.
Yay, Wendy. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I'm so happy to see everyone. And may we have a great new 4th year.
Oh, wait, we have a question. How many lives have been touched over 5 years? Oh, wait, it's a statement. How many lives have been touched over 5 years thanks to PPMNY? Well, I'd like to think many, 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 but Carol, you certainly are touching many.
But there has to be over hundreds, maybe into the thousands now. I
think
feel.
so. We've done several jump starts. And what, by the way, for anyone who's still listening, the joy of all this is we put the information out there mostly through our volunteer grassroots network. We do not have a large staff at all. In fact, thanks to Liana Levine Reisner and Lynn Diamond, who are our fearless leaders, we do a lot with our volunteer groups. And people touch people who touch people who touch people who touch people. So we're now working with the New York Health and Hospitals Association, doing jump starts with them. Some of you may or may not be aware. And those are people in the healthcare field themselves, some doctors, some administrators, some nurses, and just people in the hospital system. And they are touching people by the things that they have learned here, moving from a standard American diet to a plant-based diet. So we actually have no idea how many lives we touch, but we hope many, 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 many.
We're like ripples, Wendy. We're like ripples.
Awesome. Well, Carol, those cakes look absolutely wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for celebrating with us. It's really a joy having you.
See you in April. Have a great March, and we'll be almost in spring. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
I mean, almost.
Very soon.